A happy holiday to each one of you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show today. Thank you so much for your time. Now, today, obviously, being a public holiday due to the mayoral and, of course, the council elections going on in the country, we're just appealing to everybody to stay calm and, of course, contribute to the peace of this country by making sure that if you'll be voting, you just vote peacefully, and of course, you also observe the electoral code of conduct as well. I'm sure that after 20, we should be able to be getting some of the results. Now, I was going through Facebook and, of course, other, social media platforms, and of course, there are some, results that are being posted here and there. I would love to appeal to everybody not to get those results as official results by ECZ. You have to wait for the official results by ECZ. I'll be talking to a man who's been in the Christian ministry, who's been the man of God for more than 30 years, and of course, he's going to be celebrating his 30th anniversary in the Christian ministry. He has seen Christianity grow in Zambia, and of course, he has also contributed to many people coming to the faith. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Bishop Marlon Mbewe. Good to have you, sir. Thank you so much. It's an honor, really, to finally meet you in person.
Thank you so much. You're most welcome.
30 years, for me, 30 years is my years of birth.
Yeah.
For you, 30 years is the amount of years that you've spent in the ministry.
Yeah.
How has been your 30 years in the ministry so far?
Well, Nelson, the 30 years has been, of course, it's a long period of time.
Exactly.
And this 30 years has been in phases in terms of ministry for me. But to briefly, it has been very good. Very good.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm saying so because of the three phases that I've gone through in this ministry. First of all, I went into college at the age of 22, I think. I went into theological college, finished my 4 years of training, and then first ordained on the 31st January 1988. That is a long way back. I was a youth at the time.
I was 2 years by then.
Yeah, after being ordained, that was in the Reformed Church in Zambia. And then I was ministering at Garden Reformed Church. I ministered for about 14 years at that congregation. And then it so happened that it came to an end after 14 years because I was released from Reformed Church because of all the doctrinal misunderstandings. Released, then I started Bible Gospel Church in Africa together with my other 8 colleagues. Yeah, and in Bible Gospel Church in Africa, I was ordained in 2001 in August. Then I was ordained as deputy overseer of the Bible Gospel Church in Africa, and I served in Bigoka for I think good 14 or 15 years again. And then in 2013, I was released again to pioneer what I'm now spearheading, Dynamic Worship Church International. So my 30 years has been in those 3 segments of ministry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Just to take you back briefly, tell us about your childhood. Were you brought up in a Christian home, or maybe you learned Christianity along the way?
Born in a very Christian family in the year 1961, 25th July. So I was celebrating my birthday yesterday.
Wow, interesting.
So that's the day I was born. That's the year I was born, and I was born in a Christian family of Mr. and Mrs. Marlon Mbewe, who are still alive up to now, and they are also coming along to celebrate with me the 30th anniversary of being in ministry. Yeah, so he is up to now a Christian man, and he was raised in that Christian family until I met Christ personally when I was 21 years of age. And by then I think I had just finished my national service stint. And then I met Christ, got changed, decided to go into a theological college to become a pastor.
How did you know that you have met Christ? You had a lucrative job in Zambia, in the service, really. At that particular time, 21, one of the most lucrative jobs that everybody was looking forward to getting to was obviously to work in the government, to work in the service,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But you decided to make that drastic decision.
Yeah.
Exactly. What are some of the proofs that you had to show that okay, I've met Christ? And
Well,
this
after I
is-
finished my national service stint, that burning desire in me, burning desire, first of all, to transform from a worldly life to a life of a believer.
Mhm.
Being in the national service training, we used to do a lot of crazy things. But I met Christ in that same period and decided to repent and become a Christian. And from that time, that desire that I needed to help many more people, I needed to preach the gospel, hence went into the theological college. But wait, I had by then also been accepted to go into teacher training college so that I become a teacher. I had got all the papers with me and of being accepted to be in the college. But I decided, no, let me not go into the teacher training college, let me go into a theological college. So of course, yes, there was that debate, even with my members of the family, whether to go for pastoral or go for be trained as a teacher. But I personally decided I must go for pastoral training.
Interesting, interesting. How was the response from the family when you finally made up the decision to get into pastoral work?
Well, they were divided. My father was very much with my idea, yeah, but from the other members of the family they were a bit hesitant. Why? Because my late grandfather was also a reverend in the Reformed Church in Zambia, and as he was ministering, doing work in the church, he had his own problems also with the other leaders in the church. So people were referring, if you become a pastor, well, grandfather was also had problems. No, don't pick it up. It's better go be trained as a teacher. But I was encouraged because I think I had that burning desire to become a pastor, despite of what my other relatives were saying.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What motivated you really to get into the work of being a pastor?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's a work that doesn't really you are getting into a work where
Yeah.
you are not going to have a fixed salary per
Yeah,
se.
yeah.
You are leaving a job that was going to give you one, housing allowance, and of course other allowances as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of beneficial by then.
Yeah.
But you decided to get into something else.
Yeah.
What was really behind the motivation?
What was behind my motivation? I think it was God speaking to me. At that time, I remember I was reading the Bible from the book of Jeremiah, where God was speaking to Jeremiah that I've called you to be a prophet unto nations. Actually, I've chosen you even before you were born, before you were created in your mother's womb. I put you aside to be a prophet to the nations. So that was an inspiration to me. I was feeling God speaking to me from that scripture. And again, I was already reading the book of Joshua chapter 1, where God was speaking to Joshua and says, don't be afraid, move on, don't be discouraged. I will be with you until the close of the age. So those scriptures really motivated me, inspired me that I must take up the pastoral work. Despite the threats that were there, despite the discouragement, I decided, no, God is speaking to me from the scriptures. God has spoken to me that I must be a prophet to the nations.
Obviously, as you were undergoing through that transformation, and of
Yes.
course, as you were now making those decisions, I'm sure that there were quite a number of sacrifices that you intended to make, or you are supposed to make, for you to accept, the new responsibility God was giving you. What are some of the changes that you had to make in your life just to fit in the Christian
Yes.
doctrine?
That time I remember I told you I was about 23 or so. I was a young man, very young man. And I was going into the theological college. Going into the college, I found a lot of elderly people. So I had to adjust myself to their levels. That was not easy because I was unmarried, just left school, and you go into a college, you find that all elderly people married with children. So for me, it was a challenge that I needed to adjust and be and suit in that environment. Yeah. Besides that, there were also other challenges in the sense that as I went on, I needed to get married. Now, we used to be told at that time that a pastor can only marry a school teacher or what nurse. But then I felt, no. I think I would be odd one out. I needed to marry somebody whom the Lord had called me to get married to. Hence, I married somebody who was very contrary to what other people were thinking or what the people were saying. So I got married to somebody who was an accountant, an auditor in the government. So that was a challenge again to me. Just going into marriage, it was a challenge because people thought or said a pastor must marry either a teacher or a nurse so that they can be helping the people. But I went into to marry somebody who was an accountant by profession.
For how long were you in the school of theology?
I was in the school of theology for 4 years. That is from 84 to 87. And that time, I went to Justo Mwale Theological College. Mm-hmm. And that time, we were not offering any it was not accredited, by the way. So, even after finishing, I decided to go back so that I can pursue my degree program. So I went back, it should be 85 or 86, and then finished in 1996, if I remember. No, it's a long time back, I'm thankful to forget. So I went back for a degree program. So it was the first 4 years, 84 to 87. Then again went there, 89 to 96. So it was basically about how many years? 8 years, theological training.
Interesting,
yeah.
Interesting. So now, in if I followed you correctly, I think somewhere in 1989 you decided to break off from Reformed Church and of course get into Bigoka.
Yeah,
exactly. What are some of the doctrine issues that led to that?
Yeah, we were in the Reformed Church. I was in the Reformed Church for I think 14 years. What led the church to excommunicate was because of some understanding of the Holy Spirit. Okay, we were labeled as the Pentecostal. We were labeled as people that misunderstood the Holy Spirit. So in short, Pentecostalism, it was an issue that led the church leadership to say, we will excommunicate you. Yeah. That is Pentecostal. When we're talking about Pentecostalism, it's all about praying in tongues. It's all about praying mass prayers. It's all about worshiping God, raising your hands, tapping your feet when you're singing. It's all that charismatic thing. They labeled it as Pentecostalism. So that was a major reason why I and the 8 others were excommunicated from the church.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are still, having a chat with a man who is celebrating 30 years in a Christian ministry, and of course, telling us about his early life, even as he was getting from one dimension of life to the other one as well. He once served in the national service.
Yeah.
When he was at his peak, when he was now about, to start obviously reaping the benefits of being under the national service, decided to get into into pastoral work. Went and of course started pastoral work at Justo Mwale Theological College in Chamba Valley for about 8 good years. We are still getting more facts from him. For now, we go for a break. When we come back, we want to look at now, after he graduated with a degree, obviously, in theology, what was next? Stay tuned.
Hi, welcome to Street Buzz.
The minds are getting affected because alcohol kills some neurons in the brain.
Why is it a bad thing?
Because it provides a cancer.
It passes a cancer.
Yes.
Mwempondo, keep watching Street Buzz. This is Street from Intercity. Epona Pereira Bapene QTV International.
This month on GoTV, we have humorous animation for both young and old.
Finally! Oh, this is going to be fun.
Seek the new lands in Strawberry Land with Strawberry Shortcake on Jim Jam.
How very wonderful.
Join the Griffin household in the politically incorrect series Family Guy on Fox.
Again!
Catch the fun-loving Keon and his friends protecting the Bridelands in Lion Guard on Disney Junior.
Common knowledge, really.
Stan Smith goes all out to protect his country in American Dad on Fox.
Is everyone comfortable?
Tune in to the hilarious marathon in Alvin and the Chipmunks on Nickelodeon.
Do not know of this Alvin.
Get all your cartoon needs with GoTV Max and GoTV Plus. We are animation. GoTV. Live it, love it.
To those of you who are just joining us, I'm talking to Bishop Marlon Mbewe, who is celebrating 30 years in Christian ministry, and of course he has been sharing his early life with us so that at least we know exactly where he is coming from. Before I even get now to the other parts as well, would you describe yourself during the time that you're growing up as somebody who was, yes, born in a Christian family, but somebody was so interested in Christianity?
Certainly, yes. Born in a Christian family and very interested in Christianity. At the same time, very active in Christianity. Because I remember I was very active in Sunday school and very active in youth ministry. I remember those youth camps that we used to go to. And very active in teaching Bible class. Yeah. But not until when I made a personal decision to follow Christ, that's when I realized, hey, Christian life is so different. It's not about being brought up in the family. It's about making a personal commitment to Christ.
There are two things here.
Yeah.
God choosing you and you making a personal decision.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do the two go along, or in some instances they go one by one?
They go together. Because even when you make a personal decision as I did, when I reflect upon my life, I realized, no, it's not now that God has called me. I realized I was called when I was not even born, from the scriptures, that is. And then when I was growing up, at times I remember when I had those good revelations in my dreams. Then I realized, okay, now I'm making a decision, but I must have been called before I was born in my mother's womb. So it's one and the same thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Earlier, I think, there is an omission that I made. Bigoka broke out of Dutch somewhere in 2001. Exactly.
Yeah.
So 8 of you were excommunicated after you came from the Bible college. You had a little misunderstanding on faith, and now you decided to get into Bigoka. Later on as well, during Bigoka, you decided to break off. What led to the second breaking off?
Yeah, the second breaking off was very peaceful. Yeah, it was not as it was in the previous case.
Okay.
The second one was more like brothers, were 4 people in the leadership. It was more like, I think we are growing. And it's true, in the 12 years that were there, the God was growing. Now we decide, let's continue extending God's kingdom. But now let's go, each one of us, in different directions. So we have 3 of us that went to different directions. The other one remained heading Bigoka. The other one started to start his own also, and also set free to pioneer Dynamic Worship Church International. So it was peaceful in the sense that we wanted to continue preaching gospel in those 3 names that we newly registered.
Do you still talk, consult the mother church, Bigoka?
At times when it is necessary. And when we have conferences, yes, we meet and interact. When we have funerals, we meet and interact.
Do you consider yourselves as still being under Bigoga?
Not at all. It's because I was released, and then I'm spearheading Dynamic Worship Church International, so I'm not under Bigoga anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Sure.
Interesting. Tell us about now your personal life, your wife. How did you meet your wife? You decided to go different from what was so common in the days when you were growing up.
Long time back,
Definitely.
yes.
Yes, you have to marry a teacher or you have to marry a nurse or something, but you decided to go for an accountant.
Yes.
Exactly. What helped you make that decision?
What helped me make a decision? It's because I wanted to do what was in my heart. At the same time, I didn't agree that pastors should only get married to a school teacher or a nurse. I thought I must go in a unique way. And it's true, that's what happened. And it proved when I was in the ministry, the way she supported me from beginning up to now, the way she has been supporting that truly this lady was really chosen that I must work with her in ministry.
Were you in the same church?
Same church, but different congregations.
Different congregations.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One question that I also wanted to get
Yes,
your
please.
opinion on
Yeah.
when you are talking about excommunications from Dutch
From Reformed Church in Zambia,
to
yeah.
Bigoka, exactly.
Yes.
You were excommunicated because of the
Pentecostalism.
Pentecostalism tendencies.
Yes.
Exactly. Is that a sign that Christianity somehow is divided?
Not at all. I think that time, the perception of Pentecostalism in the Reformed Church in Zambia, I think it's very different from what it is now. I think now even the Reformed Church itself has gone through transformation such that those tendencies that were a cause for us to be excommunicated, I think they tolerate them now. But at that time, they couldn't. Why? Because even the Reformed Church itself is growing spiritually and being accommodative to other Pentecostal tendencies. So, in short, Christianity, yes, is growing. It's growing. In fact, what makes Christianity grow, or what has escalated Christianity to grow, particularly in Zambia, was the coming in of the second Republican president. Mm-hmm. And then he declared Zambia as a Christian nation. I think from that time, that's when you saw a lot of Pentecostal churches arising and coming and become very active in the nation of Zambia. So that escalated actually, particularly in terms of Pentecostal churches. It made the churches to grow at a higher speed.
I know later on during our discussion, I'll be asking for your opinions on a number of issues.
Yes, please.
You being a bishop and, of course, being a man of God, 30 years is not easy.
Yeah.
You've seen quite a lot of changes in Christianity, and, of course, I'll be getting your opinion on some of the changes that have come in as a result of the expanding of Christianity and as a result of Christianity growing as well. Now, if you are looking back to the 30 years that you've been in the ministry,
yes, please.
How would you describe it? How has it been for you? Any regrets?
No regrets at all. But ministry has got challenges. Ministry has got responsibility. So for the last 30 years, I would say that I have no regrets at all. Why? Because up to now, I still believe God has called me into his ministry. And up to now, he still wants me to go on. He still wants me to go on doing ministry in his kingdom. So I have no regrets at all.
What are some of the challenges that you have encountered during the 30 years you've been in the ministry?
Well, I have 3 segments of ministry. I'll share with you from Reformed Church, Big Bible Gospel Church in Africa, and now Dynamic Worship Church International. I think there are a few challenges that I can explain. The first one is about developing leaders. That challenge, I think I've faced it from the Reformed Church, from Bible Gospel Church in Africa up to now. Developing Christian leaders. At times, the church lacks potential leaders that are able to teach the word, explain the word, leaders that are able to take the gospel further. That to me I've found is a major, major challenge. Okay? The second one was, of course, resources, because the gospel is not cheap. You need to take the gospel to those that do not have. You need to take the gospel to the unreached. It's not cheap. It needs resources. It needs finances. That in itself, again, is a challenge. And it depends on how you can resource the finances so that you do the preaching of the gospel. But from my experience in these three segments, finances is another major challenge. Besides that, you need to put up structures. You need to put up, like now we are busy trying to raise money to put up for our missions training school. We are busy fundraising for finances. It's a challenge. So putting up structures needs money. It's a challenge. And then the other challenge that I would face is, that I would say is, as you establish Christian churches, you also face other counterfeit faiths, like traditional religions, other wrong tendencies. Those are also challenges to the Christian faith. Basically, I think I would point out those three as for now.
From the three, let me just isolate one.
Yes.
Leaders.
Yeah.
Exactly. In most cases, when you are trying to identify leaders in a church, obviously focus also goes to the youths who are coming up, because they are the ones who progressively have to take over, especially when the older generation dies, or possibly when something happens or something like that. Exactly. How has been the response? What is the problem that you have encountered, especially when you're dealing with people of my age, the young ones, when it comes to being groomed into leaders in a church?
Raising up young people into Christian leadership, you discover, from my experience, you discover that some of them may not have the sound education. They may be interested, quite all right, to be in leadership of the church or to be trained in the leadership of the church, but they may not have sound leadership. They may not have sound education. So how do you train people that are not well educated? So education, to me, I've faced it as a way that has caused a lot of young people not to be trained in the Christian leadership. Yeah. Some of them will say that I've not really been serious and committed to the Christian faith. As a result, they cannot be incorporated in the training to be trained as leaders. Yeah. Basically, I think those are the two things that I would say meanwhile.
Maybe it's because many youths don't grasp the calling of God.
You would say that because the calling of God is a personal thing, okay? But I wouldn't say, because even those that we have identified, they feel God wants to use them, but how do you train this somebody who has got the calling of God but no sound education? It's really a challenge in raising up Christian leaders, especially to young people. Yeah.
Interesting. And now, how do the young people start getting to that particular level? Because at the end of the day, like you said, the Christian faith is expanding.
Yeah.
The church is growing, and as it is growing and giving birth to other churches and of course other sections. Whenever one section is born, then there should be leaders to take charge. Exactly. So meaning there's still a need for more of such people. Exactly.
Yeah.
What should be? How do we handle that challenge?
Yeah. I think from the perspective that I've taken in the church practically, I start from the grassroots, or I would say it's better to start from the grassroots. It's better we start raising these young ones from grassroots. Say Sunday school. In Sunday school, there are young ones, 5 years, 7 years, 9 years, 12 years. From the way that I would handle it, it's better to start raise young Christians right from their tender age. Let them be groomed in the Christian faith right from tender age. Hence, I would propagate that every church must have very active Sunday school classes. I'm sure you know what I mean by Sunday school. I'm talking about the age of 0 to the age of 12 or 14. You group the children together once every week, you start to train them, and you have very good material to train them so that they can grow up in faith. Then as they grow up, of course, they will be going up on stages, Sunday school to youth group to singles until they go into couples fellowship. So in that way, you have a very wide range in which you can pick these young leaders for further training as Christian leaders.
What more would you love to achieve going forward? 30 years you have achieved a lot. You've seen churches being born under your supervision, and of course you've contributed to the church growing. What more would you love to achieve in the Christian ministry going forward?
Yeah, going forward, I still have a very big burden to do a lot of mission work.
Mm-hmm.
If you can understand me well, in these three segments, Reformed Church, Bigoka, and now Dynamic Worship Church International, I think I've concentrated much starting churches, raising up leaders within the nation of Zambia. But now I think it's time that I go to my calling. As I was reading in the book of Jeremiah, that I've called you as a prophet to the nations. I've called you as a Christian leader to the nations. So I think my emphasis, as I celebrate the 30 years, I'm more like recasting my vision, not only for Zambia, but for the entire sub-Saharan Africa and beyond. That is my desire. And besides that, I would also love to finish up the mission school that we are building, so that it can grow into a major training college for the young people who can continue to preach the gospel even when I'm not there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Recasting your vision, does it mean now you want to start moving from one nation, one country to the other, helping reshape people's, beliefs and faith?
Certainly, yes. When reading from the book of Psalms, I think it's Psalm 2, it says, "Pray, I'll give you nations as your inheritance." So certainly, yes, it has to do with going out to nations. And it's my prayer that God may open doors to nations, so that you go into these nations, establish churches, and grow up Christian faith in these nations. Yes, certainly, I have to go to the nations.
Congratulations on your 30th, anniversary. I think it's been an amazing one. So 30 years in the Christian, faith. How many years in your marriage?
In my marriage is 29.
Wow. The difference of one. Wow, interesting.
Yes. Sorry, what did you say?
The difference of one.
Yeah, there's a difference one, because I started ministry as a single man, and then a year later I got married.
Wow, interesting.
So I'm 29 years in marriage, 30 years in ministry.
Wow.
57 years of age, because I was celebrating my birthday yesterday.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that is Bishop Marlon Bewe.
Bishop Cephas Marlon Bewe.
The bishop, actually, to finish his
Yes.
name, Cephas Marlon Bewe, celebrating 30 years in the ministry, 29 years in marriage, 57 years of age as well. So 3 decades in the Christian faith. Now let me take about 10 to 15 minutes, really getting now your opinion through your experience. It's good that the Christian faith is growing. It's good that the Christian church is expanding. But with the expansion and the growth of the Christian ministry and the Christian church also has resulted in a number of things.
Yes, please.
I remember the time that Jesus Christ was here on earth. He gave an illustration of a sower who went to sow seeds.
Actually, that's the book cover that I've written. So
Oh.
I'm exposing a lot now.
So when
Continue.
after sowing, later on at night,
Yes.
an unscrupulous person comes and definitely does something to the vineyard.
So
as
they
well.
will, yeah.
That's what we have seen in Christianity today. There's so many churches that are being born, which is good.
Yeah, which is
But at the
good.
same time, there are also other churches that are quite questionable.
Yeah.
What is your opinion there? Should we regulate the coming up of these churches, the mushrooming of these churches? Should they be regulated by government?
First of all, let me just correct you. Don't use the word mushrooming. Because I think we are seriously planting churches.
Mm-hmm.
And churches outside there are seriously growing churches.
Mm-hmm.
So the word mushrooming, I think it doesn't talk well to the Christian faith.
Okay.
Because mushroom, you just poop, 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 poop,
Uh-huh.
no direction, no one. But at the same time, I understand it's because of the same thing that you're talking about, whereby some people misuse this privilege that we have to go out and preach the gospel in some churches. Actually, we shouldn't be surprised because Christ warned us. He says, in the later days, there will be false prophets. And be careful. Even the elect would be misdirected, would be misled. So what is happening is just a fulfillment of Scripture. Except the Christian church has to sit down, stand on the right doctrine, stand on the right teachings. Now, when you're talking about regulating, I think that's why we have all these mother bodies in the nation that are there to modulate or regulate the growth and the government of these churches. I don't know whether I would be of an idea that the government can come in. Okay, maybe the government can come in because of the confusion of some of these false prophets that are rising. But otherwise, it's particularly the responsibility of the mother bodies to govern the church. Biblically speaking, church and government must be separate. Yeah. Otherwise, if church comes in the government, things wouldn't be right. So church and government must be separate. That's why I would encourage that the mother bodies must be responsible for the regulation of these wrong tendencies that are springing up.
Interesting. The second one.
Yes, please.
I'm compelled to get your opinion on what we have seen now emerging to be a very common trend in so many Christian churches today, and of course in some of these churches that are coming up today. The issue of holy water, the issue of miracle money, and of course all these
anointed oil,
and
soap,
exactly stuff like that.
Grows.
Are these Christian? Do these have a Christian root? Should Christians believe in this?
What I can say is that certainly there are a lot of wrong things that have happened in the nation. And let me appreciate also even for what the government has done, of putting up the Ministry of Religious Affairs. Somehow, someone is helping to control the situation. But when you talk about water, anointing oil, some of these things have got a root in the scriptures. But because there's somebody out there who sits and starts to manipulate and uses it in the wrong way, of course we need to react and to put a stop to it. But when you talk about water, we talk about anointing oil and these other things, they are quite biblical. Except other Christian leaders who may not be sound in terms of doctrine have manipulated and misled a lot of people.
From there, under what circumstances should one form his or her own church? Or maybe should I just say his church? Under what circumstances?
What do you mean his church? That means his personal thing.
Exactly. For example, I think
Yes.
we've seen lately. I
Yes.
think we've seen quite a number of people, from being called papas, to now coming up with their own congregations, and coming up with their own stuff like that. So if one wants to break off from the main religion, from the main church, and of course go and come up with their own branch, what are the qualifications that somebody who is supposed to be called Papa of the church needs to exhibit?
Because from my understanding, everybody who goes out to start a church, like how it happened to me, the board sits down and says, let's agree on this. You are released, go and do this. You are released and go and do this. That means you've got authority, you've got a mandate from the church that has released you. So basically it has to do with something that is being sent. You must be released. You must have people who are saying, yes, he is able, go. But just starting your own thing, then you must put up a very good governance system so that it's not your personal thing. It's something, church is for Christ. Church is for believers. Therefore, in terms of governance, that means the believers must govern it. So answering your question, I would say right from the starting point, it must be something that has been agreed and released to do or to start off a change. But at the same time, we can also give it room in the sense that one may be in the church, he has a passion to start a ministry, and still he has to go to those that govern him and get the blessings of the leaders so they may go and do the new ministry that he has. And then if somebody, in case he doesn't belong to anyone, he just pops up and says, oh, I'm starting a church, still he must present himself. That's why I've got all these mother bodies. Where do you belong? You must belong, oh, EFZ, oh, this is. You go there and register with them so that they cover you, so that you participate even upon the other national activities together with others. But being in isolation, that's when it brings a lot of wrong things in the individualistic churches.
Faith healing is also another, emerging practice in so many churches today. And of course, it has also, miracle money, holy water, anointing oil. These are now becoming, the cornerstone messages that so many, men of God are using to get people to their churches. Now, when you come, you are sick, I just pray for that, just buy mineral water, I give and stuff like that. It works. So now, tell us something about faith healing. Does faith healing today exist? Are these faith healings that we are seeing being performed by so many, so-called men of God original, or are they just fake? I think on social media some have been called fake and all that.
Mm-hmm.
What could be your opinion?
Faith healing is very biblical. And up to now, we still have a lot of men and women of God that practice genuinely faith healing. Because it's biblical. God heals. Up to now, as I'm talking, God heals. That's why we call it faith healing. It's depends on the faith that you have. You pray to God, people get healed. In my ministry, as I've been ministering for 30 years, yes, I've prayed for people that have been healed. Now, don't forget, even in the scriptures, we are warned of false prophets. We are warned of magicians. I think it was Acts chapter 8 where it was Simon the sorcerer, who was, everybody in that city gave him respect that yes, he was truly the man of God. But upon the other servant apostle going there to preach, it was discovered that this man is not the man of God, he's a sorcerer, he's a witch. But everybody gave respect to him, and he performed a lot of miracles and wonders. But yet he was a magician. So even this time, there are things that are there. Unfortunately, faith healing, miracle water, miracle money, now it's about commercializing the thing. It's all about making money out of the lives of people. It's all about getting wealthy from using the name of Christianity. Yes, these things are there, but they shouldn't stop us from doing the right thing, because yes, right and genuine men and women of God, they are out there. But we are cautious of false prophets, because even in the biblical times, there were magicians who misled people because of various things that we are doing that were contrary to the faith.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what can help people really differentiate between true faith healings practiced by true men of God and the fake ones?
Jesus told us, he said, you will know them by their fruit. You will know them by the way they act, the way they live, the way they do. Let's live with these guys who are called the anointed miracle workers. Live with them. You see that from their works, from the way they live, you're able to tell this is not genuine faith, because the fruit is able to tell that this fruit is not from genuine faith. So now we have a responsibility to teach the church, to teach the Christians, to teach the people. In fact, even those that are not even believers must learn to differentiate between a false prophet and a genuine prophet. False prophets always exalt themselves. False prophets always ask for money to be prayed for. Bible says, freely you have received, freely you give. There's nothing about paying something to get a healing, pay something to get what and whatever. So we have a responsibility to teach the believers so that they may know the genuine and ungenuine. And if people know, they will refrain. They will not be cheated.
Interesting. Finally, how do you intend to celebrate your 30 years?
Finally, I'm celebrating with, first of all, with my fellow men and women of God, and also celebrating with my family. And then we are coming together to pray, celebrate, sing, and then recast a vision that, hey, this is the beginning of going out into nations now. And then we are meeting to celebrate this on a Saturday, on this coming Saturday from 14 hours to 19 hours. I have people there that I've invited that will be part and parcel of this celebration. Yes, please.
Interesting. Congratulations once again, and of course, enjoy your 30th anniversary. I think it's not easy, but keep on shaping the minds of both, the young and of course everybody. Keep on shaping them to, stand firm and of course hold on to their, true identity as well.
Thank you so much. Actually, that is my responsibility to see that a lot of young pastors, they get the right way of doing things. I stand out as a counselor to a lot of young people so that they also get impartation to do ministry in a mature and responsible way.
Truly.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for your grace and of course for coming through to this special interview.
Amen. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, he is not just a bishop, but he is also the chancellor of Matem University as well. Quite a lot of responsibilities, but for now, he's turned 30 years in the Christian ministry. And of course, I'm sure that everybody who's gone through him in terms of, lecturing, in terms of, training, and of course, counseling and all that, I'm sure that, they have reaped the benefits of having him as a mentor and of course as a chancellor for students at Matem University, and of course for his children as well, obviously, as having him as a father. I think it's been of great benefit. Well, thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure that it's been an awesome one. Make sure that you enjoy the rest of the day. And of course, to everybody out there, we'll be looking forward to another brighter weekend. And of course, we'll be joining Bishop Cephas Amalon Bewe during his anniversary celebration. Make sure that you make it as colorful as it deserves to be. I've been your host, Nelson. Until then, it's bye-bye.